Here are 3 of the group. Now these 9 women just got together and we were talking about the floods that had happened and realised, of course, that it was in our sister shire of Bullock that the floods were happening. And we sat down and thought, what could you do to help? And once again, you feel powerless when you're out and you see your fellow Australians suffering like that. You feel powerless. Now, in a craft sense, what you do is make something, do something, organise something. That's what we do. So what we said was, we'd love to go up to Bullock and to teach some craft classes to the women up there. So through the Altona Traders, through the Hobsons Bay City Council, and through the Ward Council funds, we raised the money to send 8 out of the 9 women up to Donald. We booked out the Donald Hotel. Through the Shire of Bullock, we got given the use of the hall in Donald, and we turned up with truckloads. We got the library bus from here, and we turned up with truckloads of fabric materials and goods, and we put on something like 10 to 12 workshops over 2 days. And free to everyone who came. So over 80 women from the area turned up. Some of them a little bit unsure about what we were doing and why we were doing it. But once the barriers broke down, we were complete strangers with all of them. And by the time we finished, of course, we knew them quite well. And we've kept in touch with quite a few of them. So that's where it started from. And from that point, we then said, we need an exhibition to actually bring these goods down to Melbourne, to bring things down, to allow people another avenue to sell their craft items. Because we understand that what happens in a small country town is that people teach each other, and so you might have 25 people making the same craft item. And to actually have an avenue to sell those or to show those is difficult. And what we wanted to do is to say, what you make is absolutely fantastic. We want to show other people what you do. So through a grant through the Hobsons Bay City Council, the Crafters United, under the auspices of the Louis Joel Centre, applied for and got a grant. We're pretty good at coming up with new ideas. You see, our council love us and our ideas. So we came up with this idea, and then we put into process the plan of making it happen. What we didn't realise at the time was that people don't understand, and of course the communication between 2 areas is very difficult. When you have 3.5 hours distance driving, it's very difficult. If it wasn't for Mark Remnant at the council in Hobsons Bay and Janet here, who helped to pull the 2 groups together, up until a few days before the truck arrived, we actually didn't know how much craft items we had. So the historic display here has absolutely been a bonus for us and wonderful. We couldn't praise it highly enough. And for what Bullock Shire has done with that, his travelling historic display has just been brilliant. So up until just beforehand, we had invited the women from Bullock to come down and spend the weekend here with us, and we showed them around. We didn't know it was harvest time because we can't get anyone down out of the country. We're appreciative that we've got even just a few of you today. So we didn't understand that, and to do that again, we would know the time frames that we were dealing with. So what we were doing and the Altona Traders have supported this project all the way through, because these 2 people, Kim and Sharon Moss, just love Bullock Shire. They just love the area. I don't know what their affinity is with it, whether it's just because you've made friendships with the Traders Association, but when you talk Altona and they're passionate about Altona, you'll find as much passion from them about Bullock as well. So it's easy to sort of get involved and to be able to talk about Bullock as if we belong there, and we don't. What the council also did from Bullock too was to send out some information packs. I limited how many Altonians got to see those packs though, because we don't want to lose too many of them. Because it sounds so wonderful up here that I'd actually pack my entire family and go bush. So if you've got some coming back to you, it's because I said, no, you can't leave Altona, you can't leave Altona. So, but to give the information, that was part of the brief for this exhibition, was to actually have it as a tourism exhibition as well, to actually promote tourism to the Shire of Bullock. The other thing too is to also showcase some of the smaller businesses up there. When you go into a supermarket anywhere in Australia and you can buy Cookers Country Cookies off the shelf, you don't know that that is a factory in Donald, and that when you phone the office and you don't get an answer, but you phone Graham's mobile phone, he answers, that is the business. So when you are buying their biscuits, you are buying somebody who's a small enterprise. And unfortunately, 25 kilos worth of those biscuits are probably going on my hips now because we're just promoting the consumption of those biscuits. So stand in the supermarket, and Coles have them on special at the moment, and a lady's picking them up, and I said to her, they're brilliant biscuits. I said, do you know where they're made? She said, no. And I said, Donald in Victoria. She said, gee, I know Donald. And I said, well, they're made there. Oh my goodness, into the supermarket trolley goes the biscuits. It's that promotion of what goes on in this local community and what I call local as being Donald and Bullock Shire. So then to contact Marmel Wines, the Marmel Vineyard, and to know that they produce the most excellent wine in small quantities, and you can order it at only $16.50 postage for a dozen bottles. They're delivered on your doorstep with the most beautiful woman that I spoke to, Yvette, up there, and they produce a fantastic wine. So what we did find out was that you produce olives up there, and then as the people from Bullock start to talk, you realise that there's more and more small producers of excellent products up in that area that could be promoted every couple of years with different sort of aspects covered each time. So of course we think, you know, this far, and then we think about this far. So that's where we came from. The quilt was part of the brief once again because the Crafters United group, mostly quilters, and when we want to celebrate anything, we make a quilt. And so the brief again on that was to make a quilt that represented the two areas. So you'll see the top of the quilt is the country stars and sky at night, leading into the country fields and the wheat, and into our Aboriginal roots, into the city skyline at night and Hobson's Bay. So it's a representation, very rough representation of the Bullock's head, I'm afraid. However, when Kim and Sharon looked at it, they said, that's the Bullock's head. So at least it's a representation of it. So the quilt was meant to be raffled, but we realised that it was too specific. When one person said, look, they'd buy a ticket, but if they won it, they'd give the quilt back to us. I realised then it was too specific for it to run as a raffle, but the proceeds of that raffle were heading straight to the Flood Recovery Fund. And so we put it up for sale, and the Alternate Traders have purchased the quilt. So it's $1,000 going straight back into the Flood Recovery Fund up at the Bullock Shire. And that's because of the grant we received to run the project. The cost of making the quilt has been incorporated into the cost of the project. So therefore the whole lot goes back up. It's one of the most pleasurable things we've done, to actually do that, sell it, know that the funds are going up. I know it's not a huge amount, but it's that gesture that says we care about you, we were concerned about you, we know. There's a story in the local paper, and it was a story that touched our hearts when we went to Bullock Shire, when we went to Donald, and we had a dinner with the women on a Saturday night. And we do show and tell. And we show our work and we tell each other about what we do and how we make it. And a woman held up a quilt and she could barely contain her tears. And she talked about this quilt, and it was a quilt that was on the floor, and we based quilts, we have to put it together. And so it was on the floor, and the floodwater came through so quickly in Charlton that she had to get out of the house like that. And that's something we don't comprehend. But out of the house like that, she had no time to do anything else. She thought she'd lost the quilts. Now it's only possessions, we understand that, but we put a lot of effort in our love, and she may have been making that quilt for somebody who was very precious to her. Only to find out her son come through and pick the quilt up, thrown it on top of the water. I tell you, we all cried. And that quilt then represents then the hope and the survival and everything, but she was very traumatised by those floods. It had been the second time, there was issues with the insurance companies, and we heard that all on that night. And that's how we know how much this has done for the women and for the men, and just for the individual, that person sitting at home crocheting those beanies, has sold several of them down here, just to say that someone else values what you do. So that's what we're all about, and that's what the project's been. It has been an absolute delight, but we have had 9 women involved, and it's not just me. Jill's one of the group and Robin's one of the group, so we've had 9 women involved, and they would be prepared, I think, to stay as a group and to continue to do things like run workshops up in Bullock, if anyone was interested in time. So thank you very much for your time and your patience for listening.
I know you're doing 17.4 seconds.
Sorry,
And what you said was just so terrific. And people around here that have been involved, the Hobsons Bay people, involved in Donald for so long. I would like Caroline to come and stand out the front, please. And I would like Sharon to come and stand out the front, please. You don't have to dance. Only Morris dancing. That's not really
Do you mind if I walk through?
The three women we have here have worked tirelessly for Donald. Carolyn has spent years doing the research to pull things together, as we've heard, that would have been lost forever, and they're so important. Kim designed the quilt, got the group going, and as Kim spoke about, it was fantastic and a great leader driven by Kim. Sharon has been involved with the Bull Oak area for at least 6 years and has driven up and down that highway so many times there should be a stretch named after her, Walsh Stretch.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? That's right,
press the button. So, to the three women here, and of course, Nick, don't feel left out, you've done a great job, but women love flowers. Congratulations, thank you for your hard work. Kim, thank you so much. From Louis Joel, thank you so much.